What I want to do is describe a tool that is a very empowering tool of insight and thus to build. And it's a multidimensional tool, and I'd like you to imagine it as follows. So we have a geography icon up here, and we have a time icon up here, and we have a dimensional map perhaps in the middle, and then every experience, every voice, every data point exists, A, on a time continuum, B, on the spatial dimension, so that we can kind of look at things in space-time, but also among the various dimensionalities, we have the mental dimension, the emotional dimension, the physical dimension. We also have what we might call a spiritual dimension or domain. And we have filters. So over here we have a whole variety of filters. Now, and filters can be mixed and added in a variety of ways to understand what looks good through what filters, with the goal of bringing a vast amount of depth perception into the experience. So what might be in this toolbox of filters? Well, one of them might be sustainability. So we have to look at sustainability mentally, emotionally, physically, logistically, financially. So if we look at sustainability of a given moment within the space-time continuum, from the logistical perspective, we may see that an activity is making money, it's making people happy. Let's say it's a zip line. But that logistically, the cable, the stainless steel or steel oiled cable, is only capable of having 1 million friction experiences with the zip apparatus, which means that functionally, on the functional dimension, each pass is reducing the functional ability. And of course we have to look at when that gets into critical zone, because at the point where the cable disconnects at the midpoint from itself and sends a happy customer to their death in the ravine, it is no longer financially sustainable. It is no longer a source of joy. That whole field collapses under the lawsuit, under the grief, under the trauma of the event. And so one of the things that we can start to examine as we look at objects in this multidimensional perspective is that there is a balance with everything. That for everything that is being gained, there is a cost. And the key is to keep those visible, to keep visible the flows of energy from one location to the next, from the next location to the next, to the next location to the next, so that we understand where all the energy is coming from and where it's going to, and the sustainability or unsustainability of that relationship. And this is all through the filter of a given moment, through the lens of sustainability in our little toolkit on the dimension of functionality in our different dimensional layers of an object. And this ability to go deep into a moment, to explore its alchemy, to find its strengths and weaknesses through different paradigms. Because we have paradigms, we have concepts that emerge out of paradigms. We have values through the value lens of, for example, efficiency. Efficiency is a very masculine trait. Efficiency is about the straight line, to spend the least amount of energy to, quote, get to the point, to achieve the goal, in honor of another masculine value, which is productivity, in honor of a paradigm that is rational, reductionist, materialistic capitalism, are some of the paradigms that might dovetail with that heightened value in efficiency, leading to a lens, a default, that anything that is done with more efficiency is good, shows intelligence, even if, as we look on the emotional dimension of the experience, the emotion is going down, the physical body is going down as the efficient action is being performed. And we can start to see, for example, chauvinism, the valuing of the masculine and the devaluing of the feminine at work, and we can see the benefits and we can see the costs. What benefits from chauvinism? Higher GDP, perhaps. What benefits, and who pays that price? What goes down so that this can go up? And we start to learn who we are. We start to learn how things work in a moment, how a moment is constructed multidimensionally. What are the connection points, the relationships between one dimension and another, between the suggested direction that comes from looking through this lens and the suggested direction that comes from looking through this other lens. And we can see that a moment is infinite. There are infinite lenses, just like in Photoshop, the 256 million colors, the different shades and gradients, that a given object is infinite. But through getting to know one moment with absolute exquisite detail through this tool, we can, through our imagination, through our extrapolation, take it out in what scientists have shown holographically, that the whole is always contained in the moment. That an engineer can reconstruct an entire holographic image from a very small portion of the holographic image, because in the spray pattern of light that is captured and expressed in a holographic image, it's the microcosm expresses the macrocosm. So by examining one moment in exquisite detail of our lives, we can see the entirety of our life pattern, and vice versa. So this is a tool that begins to get possible with virtual reality composition and simulation. And basically what we have right now in movie composition and is we have a timeline and we have scenes, and scenes focus on things that have been done and said, but they don't focus on things that have been thought and felt directly. These are, in great acting, implied in the facial expressions or the pattern of action. But with this tool, we'd actually be able to go into the mental emotional dimension. And we're able to go into endless meta-conversations, to expand a moment in parallel into conversations about the conversation, into conversations about the conversations of the conversations, and create an entire universe out of absolutely nothing, out of a single grain of sand, of a single second in time. Because we can take a second timeline and we can explore the dimensionality. And what I want to be able to do is in a tactile way, follow the threads from one paradigm to the next. Follow the relational patterns. How did this come into being? And start expanding out to start seeing the entire world from a moment. And see a moment in the entire world. It's a great, exciting adventure. And when we can draw, when we can reverse and pause, when we can make time vertical through this simulation, it's a simulation that is an exploration. And in the, for example, the Matrix and other paradigm bending storylines, where we have a simulation in a simulation in a simulation, we have things like set theory. The theory that you cannot fully understand a set until you are outside of it. Well, one of the ways that we can get outside of the current dimensional experience of reality is to recreate the moment in a virtual dimension. A virtual dimension that technologically records, amplifies, illuminates a moment, and then brings as much depth perception to that moment as we care to, and allows us to go back over that second in time, back over that 3 seconds in time, that minute in time, with exquisite magnification, not just for the eyes, but for the ears, for the mind, for the heart, for the different symphonies and overlaps of those lenses, knowing that they are just a few of the many observing and measuring devices potentially available, meaning that we're looking through a very small subset of lenses to look infinitely at this very small bit of data. And it would just give us a sense of how big the multiverse is, at our place in it, and how we use our energy to construct and amplify patterns, and how we use our energy to destroy, to bind up, and to collapse energy fields that some part of us might idealize and aspire to, and another part of us is hacking away at without having a cogent conversation, without integration of this paradigm and this paradigm, of this value and this value, of this agenda, paradigm and strategy, and another agenda, paradigm and strategy. We can start to see our many faces, and in doing so we can understand the many faces coming towards us, interacting with us, shaping our world in parallel. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for anything that you do to bring this possibility, this probability into being.